All right, we're going to check out, shoot, and evaluate this 4-16 by 44 by MidTen here. It's a 30 millimeter tube. Comes with Weaver mounts, which will also work on a Picatinny rail. It's got a multi-coated lens. You got a diopter back here under the cap, which does come off pretty easily to expose that if you need to adjust it for your eyesight. It's got about a 3.5 inch, 4 inch sunshade here as well. Of course, it's got the flip up caps as well. It's 1/4 inch adjustments at a time, windage and elevation. These are the locking turrets, so you would pull them up to unlock it to adjust. Don't know how well you guys can hear on camera, but it's a very audible, and you can feel the clicks both sides, and then you just press it down to lock it. It's a MOA Reticle, which I'll have up on the screen to show you what that looks like. So it gives you some marks and measurements down to 32 inches. All right, so here's the reticle, and as I said, this is an MOA reticle, and what that means is each one of these numbers in the line centered and corresponding with it is a measurement of MOA. So you can see there you got 4, 8, 12, and 16 MOA of adjustment for windage. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. Marks for holdover there for bullet drop, and then obviously you got lines in between each of those numbers, which are an additional 2 MOA. I don't want to make this video too long explaining, so basically MOA is 1 inch at 100 yards, 5 inches at 500 yards, and so on. I'll probably make a video coming up sometime soon explaining in a little more detail what MOA is and whatnot, but for the time being, if you don't understand, just Google it real quick. Of course, if you know your dope, you can just make the necessary adjustments for the drop, but if you don't want to do that, or you need to make a quick shot, that's what those numbers in there are for. If you know how much drop you got at what distance, or relatively close to how much drop, then you can just use those quick reference numbers and marks in there for that, which we'll do here. I'm going to zero it for 100 yards, and then we should be about 26, 27 low at 300 with a 100 yard zero, so I'll use those corresponding marks in there to take the 300 yard shots and see how well it fares. It is a first focal plane, so your reticle will zoom with the scope, so it's very, very, very fine all the way back on 4 power, which is as low as it goes. But by the time you get to 8x, you can see it pretty well, which, I mean, you could shoot 50 yards on 8x, no problem. But even if you have it all the way down on 4x, you can still, you know, see the center just fine to shoot whatever you're going to shoot if it's closer than 50 yards for whatever reason. But once you get way out there and you have it all the way up on 16x, you can see them pretty well. You can see them and read them and make it out way before 16x. Like I said, I can see it pretty good at 8x. But that allows you to utilize that being a first focal plane, since the reticle zooms in and out with your scope. Those compensating marks and corresponding numbers, they will be accurate no matter what setting you have it on. When you have a second focal plane, a lot of times you'll see a certain number highlighted in red, like say on this maybe 12x or 14x, to where the drop compensating marks will only be accurate on that very specific power level, whereas with this first focal plane it's going to be accurate for drop compensation and windage no matter what setting you have it on. Now it's got a 2-year warranty. There's your instructions there. Comes with screen wipe and a battery, because the center dot is illuminated, so we'll pop the battery in there, and it's kind of hard to get it on camera, but I'll do my best to show you guys that. I might have to wait till it's a little darker out. So it comes with the battery for that, so your center dot only, not the entire reticle, only the center dot is illuminated, and of course all hardware and tools and whatever necessary included as well. So I'm going to get it mounted up on my Anderson here. It's a 7.62 by 39. This is a budget rifle, so it's quite a bit of a rattle trap, so it'll be a good test for the scope. Make sure it holds 0. So not only does 7.62 by 39 have more recoil than 223, 5.56, but this thing's also a rattle trap too, so that'd be a good test for the scope. But I got my shooting seat down here 100 yards, so I'm going to try to get it zeroed down there for 100. You can see the grass there. It is pretty windy out here, but then we'll utilize that reticle to go out 300 yards there on my 16-inch steel gong and try to smack that around as well. Alright, so I'm getting ready to put the battery in the side here for the illuminated dot. I'm noticing here they got this little tool, like a little screwdriver, to open all these, turn them and whatnot. And it also comes with this, I'm not sure the correct term of that, but that's your little throw lever here. If you want such, you can screw it in there, that way you can quick throw the zoom. But there she is, all mounted up. You got little dots here to indicate points of reference for all the turrets. And for your, you can see these dots here. You gotta see the 1 and the 6. In between each setting, so you'll line it up there. So currently we're off. That'll be the first setting of brightness for that center dot, then off for the second setting, and then off, and then 3, and then so on and so forth, clear up to 6 brightness settings. Not sure why they do that, but you got on off in between each one. And then instead of having your focus for distance up on the front there, this one, it's on the side here, which I don't really mind, honestly, up to infinity there. But you got individual settings, clear out the 600 or as close as 20, 25, 50. So anything you need there, clear out to infinity. But that little mark there is the indicator for that. And like I said, it's on the side here instead of on the front, which I actually don't mind because I don't have to reach up so close to grab it or risk touching the lens on the end there. So anyways, let's get this thing zeroed and get some rounds through. All right, got her zeroed down there. I'll go over the kind of rudimentary groups I printed down there later, but it shoots pretty well zeroed at 100 yards, so I'll reach out there on my 16-inch gong now at 300. Took a few shots off camera at some debris and then got it close enough to be on paper, and these were my first 3 shots, which were really tight, as you can see. Then on my next 2 groups, they opened up like crazy, and I was like, what the heck is going on? But to make it a long story short, I didn't get the scope tightened down tight enough to the Picatinny rail, so after those 3 shots it came loose on me, but I corrected that. And then my final group on the paper here, at the top dot, I was just kind of rushing them. I wasn't worried about being super accurate or anything like that. I just wanted to verify that it was, you know, zeroed, and it was, so then we went out to 300. Well, this was the resulting group down there at 300 yards, and if you guys paid close enough attention, when I first started shooting that first and second shot, there was hardly any wind. It was very light to the right, and then it really picked up, and that resulted in it pushing those bullets off to the right there further and further. Had that wind not picked up, that group probably would have been about half that size. So, I mean, I really liked the scope, but I was just blown away by the performance of that. Not only the rifle just being a bare bones BCA with a, you know, mil-spec everything, it's not free floated, but also the, you know, the steel Wolf ammunition. And I got that stuff like 10 years ago or more, and especially in this wind for it to shoot that tight, and also knowing that it would have been even tighter if it hadn't picked up on me. That's just amazing performance from that rifle and ammo combo there. I'm just going to try to display that illuminated center dot for you. So it's kind of low light right now. It's about 5 minutes past sunset. Well, the dogs were barking, and now it sounds like the neighbor's lighting off fireworks. Anyways, it's a few minutes past sunset. As you can see, it's still light out. Usually it takes like another half hour after the quoted sunset time for it to be completely dark. So we're a few minutes past sunset here. And it's going to be somewhat difficult. Try to get a focus on this for you guys. So, wow, it's not wanting to focus. There we go, sort of. So you can see the reticle there in the bright sky. Don't really have an issue seeing it. Let's go against some green here. So you can still kind of see the reticle. But you see how it's kind of like blending in with the dark background now that the sun has set and it's getting darker out. But you can see, even though my camera's not wanting to focus, you can see that red dot there. So if your reticle disappears on you against a dark background when it's dim out, you can illuminate that center reticle. That way you can still see, you know, where to aim and still hit your target. So again, the camera does a poor job of picking it up. It appears much more bright to my eye and nice fine dot, you know, in focus and whatnot. So it is up all the way, but like I said, it's still pretty light out, as you can see. So I'll come out 10 or 15 minutes later from now and see what it looks like then. Probably be too bright on the brightest setting then. I'll have to turn it down some. Looks like there's a deer out there. Yep, sure is. If I can get this thing to, wow, it won't even focus on a deer for me, really. What is this thing's deal right now? Doesn't like to focus too well once it gets darker out. So I was trying to show you that deer out there, but it's all crappy looking. I'll get a still frame of it. Here is just displaying that you can see that dot's even brighter now. Even though it's still kind of daylight out, you can see how much the darker it gets, the better you can see it, which that's the whole point of that illuminated dot, is for low light shooting. So it doesn't need to be super bright during the daylight. And this is also a good display of the scope's power. If you can even see the deer out there currently, that little brown dot in the field, compared to when I turn the scope up to 16x. You can see the deer very clearly there. So it's definitely true to magnification. If anything, may actually be more powerful than it claims. And again, the camera does a really poor job of focusing on that reticle. So that red dot there in the middle where it's illuminated is actually at least half that size when I'm actually looking through it. And I can also clearly and crisply see all the marks and the numbers as well. So this video is probably getting a little too long now, so I'll wrap her up here. There'll be a link in the description if you want to go check it out. Any details I may have missed in the video will of course be covered on the page that link will send you to. And you know, this is a completely unbiased review, and I'll only ever tell you guys the truth. They did send this for me to review, but I do really like the scope. As I just said with that deer, you can tell, I can tell, that it is certainly true to magnification. I've experienced with some like budget scopes before that it doesn't, you know, it might say it's this power or that power, but when you turn them all the way up to the magnification it supposedly is, you can tell that it's not actually as powerful as advertised. But this one certainly is. It's definitely true to magnification. Like I said, it may actually be a little more powerful than 16x, but if anything, it's certainly meeting that 16x, and it is true to magnification. Like I was saying, the camera does really bad job at just showing you how clear and crisp it is. This is certainly on par as far as clarity goes, and this goes for clear down the 4x and all the way up to 16x. The clarity never changed. It was good the whole time. It's on par. I would say I've owned a few Vortex scopes, and those have always been pretty clear. Obviously, Vortex a little higher up brand there, name brand and whatnot, and their scopes do cost more, but this was just as clear as the Vortex scopes that I've owned. And I'll tell you what, I'm also really starting to like these MidTen scopes, because I was also sent this one a few months ago. I'll put a link in the description to this one as well. I put this one through a torture test in that video, and my planned torture test was to put it on a 12 gauge shotgun and run an entire box of ammo through it, and then throw it back on the rifle and see if it maintained 0. But on the first or second shot, because of my cheap shotgun, the rail broke off of the shotgun, and so the scope came with the rail, and it smashed into the wooden floor of the deck I was shooting off of, and that's how it got this big dent here. But it held 0, and it still to this day holds 0 and works properly. I've switched it around on different rifles, and if you watch enough of the videos I post on the channel, you would have seen this scope even after that video, the initial review video of it, after it smashed onto the wooden floor. I've had this on several different guns since then, doing different videos with it, and it still works flawlessly. So, and this one also had really good clarity and was true to magnification as well. So yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about these scopes so far. So again, link in the description if you want to check it out. Link also for the review video of the other one if you want to see that. Links also for the shooting bag there, the target stand I had down there, paper targets, and even my steel targets. Thanks for stopping by and checking this one out, and I hope to catch you on the next one.